Health, Home, and Lifestyle is brought to you by The Medical City, your trusted partner in health.
Happy day, everybody. I'm Jason Salas here at Kmart, and I have my friends and my family members for the KUAM Care Force, and we are raising money to help take care of our community for Giving Tuesday. We are here each and every Tuesday throughout the month of November, and with your generous donations, we are going to help people in our community who are struggling right now, going through like a lot of stuff. So thank you for all of your contributions, and we are here each and every Tuesday from 12 to 2. So please come by, make a donation, come hang out with us, because we are doing good work in our community right now. But for Health, Home, and Lifestyle, we got a really good show for you this week. Here's what we have.
House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
Half a day, everybody. I, for one, am really, really happy. And I know my ladies, Liz and Gina down at RE/MAX Diamond Realty Guam are as well, because we have a wonderful topic for you today. If you saw the episode of RE/MAX's other series that we have here on KUAM, Properties in the Tropics, our friends Dee and Deanna had this wonderful segment about looking at a piece of commercial property. It's over there in Tamuning. And they even said, admittedly, this is a fixer-upper, but can you see the potential? And they were dealing with a commercial property. So, ladies, I want to kind of talk about, what seems to be is it a dark art? Is it an esoteric skill that if you are in the market specifically for a residential property, how do you actually have that mindset of being able to envision and see and be able to actually like work through all of like the pipeline of activities that we've talked about on this show and actually see the home of your dreams when potentially all you're looking at is maybe like, a flat piece of, asphalt or or even jungle.
Or can I actually start, because
sure,
that really has me excited, because
I mean you reported from the jungle a few weeks ago, literally.
Yeah, but you're talking about asphalt or land, or how about just a fixer-upper?
Got that too.
Yeah, for me, my journey began. You said your question is how do you actually envision this, or how do you get started, right? What makes you want to go down that path, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what you're asking. Well, for me, that journey began with the fact that I couldn't afford very much. When you can't afford very much, you better be creative, or else you're not going to get anywhere.
So creativity as a means of necessity. Yeah.
Yes.
Necessity, affordability, your willingness to take on something that is a piece of junk, right? Because it's about affordability. And so my husband and I were at a place in our lives where all we could afford is what we now refer to as fixer-uppers. Back then, they were referred to as affordable homes, okay? But now we refer to them as fixer-uppers. Okay, so how did we start on that journey? It wasn't about vision at all. For us, it was about, that's the only darn thing we could afford to buy.
So make it work.
So make it work. Get clever. If you don't have the money, you better have the ideas or the willpower or the willingness to put in some sweat equity. And that's exactly what happened to us. We couldn't afford very much, so we were willing to take on something that wasn't very pretty, and we were willing to put in our sweat equity. And first we had to convince the seller, hey, we can't pay you, but if you will do short-term financing, and it was really short-term, guys, and the market's shifted, so I'm not saying that this is what you're going to be able to do, but your question is, how do you even have the vision to do that? Well, for me, it started with the fact that I couldn't afford not to do it. I didn't have any other options. And so that was my thing, hey, we can't buy it. The bank's telling me it's got to look pretty to get financed. We are willing to put in sweat equity if you give me the time to put in the sweat equity so that we could turn around and go to the bank and borrow the money from the bank and pay you off. There's a lot of mechanisms that go into that, but that's how that's how it started for us.
Okay. Well, Liz, I'm sure you would agree because, like say a chef looks at, a bunch of raw ingredients and sees it's, amazing 5-course meal. A painter looks at a blank piece of canvas and already knows, the masterful artwork he's going to make. Like even some people, like when they're in the dating scene, can say like, okay, I can change him. They take like, they take the person who's rough around the edges. But how do you actually take like property that may have, little dings here and and imperfections and things like that, and actually envision it into be the home of your dreams?
So there are two things. One, usually we get calls from a seller that wants to sell their home. So we go in there, and if we determine it's a fixer-upper, the thing I would do is, anyone could go into a fixer-upper and see what can I do with this? But it all has to do with, well, do I want to do it myself or do I need to hire a contractor? I'm working with someone right now that I'm selling a fixer-upper, and he visited, he looked at it, and he's getting quotes from a contractor right now just to see. But in anything, like for example, if I'm going to build a home, I want to design it in my head. I want to see this room here. How do I want the kitchen done? So when you go into a fixer-upper, the conditions are already there. So you want to look at, okay, if I'm going to redo this kitchen, how am I going to reconfigure it? And what happens usually is people either keep the original layout or they want to shift things around, but that involves plumbing and everything. So it comes out in your head. When I look at it, what can be done? So every time I inspect, I'm sure it's the same with Gina, you could see a potential, because we see so many homes and we see the potential of what could be done with this particular home. But for any layperson, when they go in, Gina hit it right on the nail. They have to have the willpower, because these projects will take a while. And sometimes it could take a year before they improve. I've met people who would renovate the kitchen first, and then when they save up enough money, then they shift to the bathrooms. So it's just a question of where do they go first. So I mean,
So they have a phased approach in that method.
That's right. And right now there are a number of fixer-uppers in the 200 to 400 price range.
Yeah.
It's just a question of, right, Gina? And
I have a bunch.
yeah, a bunch of them that are, and Gina has one in my mind that's about 200 something. So it's just a question of going in, have a vision, what can I do? But you have to, as Gina puts it, if you don't have the money, you're going to have to save up, have the vision, do whatever is needed to buy the home, and then gradually take on different projects. But you do have to have the willpower and the stamina, and of course, money. And if you can't afford it, then it's a matter of saving every paycheck so that you can put it towards. But I'll tell you one thing. If you have that elements of what it's going to take, you're going to create something beautiful and have something that you'd be proud of in the end. I just visited a home yesterday, and I remember when that home was being sold, that there were some issues with the home. Well, this person who bought it, they built nice landscaped yards, beautiful flowers. I was just amazed at what they did with that property. And anyone could create something beautiful out of nothing.
This is a skill I just wish I had, ladies, because I know some people, they can just, like again, in any different type of context and everything, they can just look at something and say, I know how this is going to be. But I guess to Gina's point and everything like that, you also have to have like incredible resolve. You have to have a willingness and a work ethic, and you have to be very, very patient.
That's right.
So it's hard skills and soft skills, right, Gina?
It's all of it. It's
all of it.
absolutely all of it. And I can't emphasize enough we do right now, coincidentally, we have a bunch of properties that are listed under 300,000. But when you're in that price range, that price range tells you a couple of things. First, that you're going to need to put some work into it, whether you're doing the work yourself or you have the ability to get a contractor to put the work in, but it needs work, or it needs work and it has other issues. Almost all of my listings that I have on the market right now need a lot of work, and that's why they're priced under 300,000. And 300,000 is by no means to some affordable, but it is right now. And it's not going to get any better. The interest rate just dropped last week. We expect another drop in December. And as the interest rates drop, what it does is it creates a bigger pool of buyers into our marketplace. And as you have more buyers, the competition in the market goes up, which means at some point, people are going to be competing with one another to buy property. So, and that's why we've been advocating. If you've been waiting, we understand that the interest rate is not friendly when it comes to translating it into your monthly payment. The problem in waiting is then you're going to be competing and there will be multiple offers on homes. And the way those offers win is you got to keep bumping your price up. Whereas if you bought the house now, try to buy it now. The interest rate's not friendly, but figure it out. Buy the home now if you already qualify. And then when the interest rate drops, you already own the home. Go in, refinance your house, bring down your mortgage. And I never advocate for refinancing because every time you get a loan, you're paying for the loan. So I hate doing that. But right now, I see it as a strategy for home buyers. Lock in the home you want without having to compete with 5 to 12 people. Lock it in, go refinance it. So yeah, you're going to have to make sacrifices in the beginning to make it work because your monthly payment may not be as comfortable as you want it to be.
But FYI, that's adult life, and that's what they don't teach us in college. They were like, everything's like, oh, you're going to make $1 million your first year out when you graduate. You're going to meet the person of your dreams. You're going to have this wonderful white picket fence house. And for most of us, 99% of us, life doesn't play out that way.
It doesn't
No,
play
they
out that
don't.
way.
No, they
Yeah.
don't. But a lot of the with these homes right now that are priced below 3, I do know some people who have got some contractors to go in and estimate what the cost would be for renovation. And some of them are coming back. One came back saying it's going to cost them $95,000. One came back saying it's going to cost $70,000. But we recommend that you get a number of contractors and get a number of estimates if you have the financial means to do so. But sharpen your pencils and start evaluating what needs to get done or have it done in phases. But there are contractors out there that are willing to do this type of work.
That
And
is a running theme that we have on this show is give yourself options.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you recall, Carlos Camacho mentioned in the program with us that there's a loan. There's a loan option that you could get. There's 2 lenders that offer this loan option where if you're buying a fixer upper, you can actually use that loan to fix up the property. So I just want to share with you guys, the interest rate right now dropped to, let's say it's 5.5. At 5.5, if you get a loan at 350, your mortgage payment is for 30 years at 5.5. The mortgage payment is it's 1987. And then you add tax and insurance. Let's say you're at 2000. The average rent right now for a decent home out there is about 2000.
It's about that much.
Yeah. So if you get one of these fixer uppers and you can get one of these lenders to give you a loan to purchase it and renovate it. So when you move in, it's going to feel brand new to you. And if you qualify for 350, that would be the route to go, is to buy a fixer upper, use that loan program that will give you the ability to hire the contractor to make the renovations and do the work. Because the bank, I think, gives you 60 days to do the renovation. It's either 60 or 120 days. So they'll give you the money to buy the house. Then they'll give you the money to do the renovation. You get the contractor to do the work. By the time it's all said and done, you've just created a beautiful, lovely home for yourself in an affordable price range.
But there are some limitations. What is it? Michael Rudolph. We've got one bank, CMG, where they you could close the loan in the condition the house is in, and then they'll finance the renovations thereafter. But there's some limitations on what that loan amount is. I think it's either 30 or 40,000. But those type loans are available. There are not that many out there. And then Carlos did talk about the mortgage certificate. And I found out that we still have to work with, I think Senator Tony Atta is working on that now, updating the bill or doing a revision of that particular bill. And then the next step is to have Guam Housing work on the rules and regulations, the policies regarding that. But that particular program gives a buyer the ability to have a better buying power. But there's still some stuff we're working on that we have to follow up with. But that's another ability to get to have more buying power in terms of your loan. It just ekes up your buying power a bit more.
Okay, ladies, I want to take us in a different direction for just a moment because something just popped into my head. You know, we haven't discussed this prior, but the Guam Department of Education, I remember several years ago, had a pilot project that they were doing for high schoolers where they were teaching young boys and girls, young men and women, financial literacy. I was really, really in favor of that because I certainly didn't have that when I was going to school, in public school. And then the program, for whatever reason, like didn't stop. What position do both of you take as professional realtors about maybe incorporating real estate savvy or investment savvy? Because of course, when they say to really maximize your personal finance, you want to have a certain investment portfolio, real estate being, a certain amount of that. That is the ultimate goal. But how do you guys feel that we should better educate like young people about what it means to actually incorporate real estate as part of your own personal finance?
Well, there's two things. There's two things. One, we've done workshops at REMAX where we, would educate people. We haven't done it in a while. That's probably what we should do again.
That's fantastic.
And have people come in to learn about what they can do to buy, what's needed. And then the National Association had a program to educate students in high schools, financial literacy you're talking about, and how they should look at for the future in buying their buying power when they purchase homes and how to prepare for that. But then when they implemented that program, DOE already had something in place. So I know we did take a training, a group of the realtors were in DC, and we took that particular type training. So I guess it's just a question, if they drop the program, then the Guam Association may consider reactivating that again in the high school.
Yeah, Gina, I'm not saying we should, hopefully we won't turn young people into like expert real estate investors right off the bat, but if you could at least instill in young kids' minds and everything how important it is to own your own home and the equity that goes along with that and the planning that goes along with that and the creativity that goes along with that, which we talk about on the show every week, that would really benefit the next generation.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's so important to teach them in high school, maybe elementary through high school. I think you need to start with the very, very, very basics of why it's important to have a good job and save your money. And after you teach them how to save them, it needs to be a course where you learn to save your money, you learn to budget your money, you learn to pay your bills on time. That actually needs to be an ongoing course, maybe from 8th grade all the way through 12th grade. And if you don't know how to balance your budget, pay your bills on time, you can like every student has to pick a job that they want to. Like if I want to be a teacher, okay, I'm signing up to be a teacher and it's part of my curriculum. You're a teacher. This is the amount of money you're going to make every year based on, the averages here in Guam. You're going to have to pay rent. You're going to have, you're going to want to eat. You need a car, and have that be a course. So every day you show up and you write down what you got paid, how much went to rent, how much went to utilities, how much went to pay your car insurance, your cell phone, your Netflix subscription, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the month, you get graded for how many of you balanced it out. If you didn't balance it out, you got fired. So now that you're fired, what are you going to do? You got to get another job. And that needs to be the course until you graduate from 12th grade. Because I'm going to tell you, I learned early on that saving your money was more important than how much money you made. Because if I make $1 million and I spend $1 million too, I'm broke, I'm poor.
Quality versus quantity, right?
Yeah, so I learned early on it didn't really matter how much money I made. It's the amount of money that I saved that was of the utmost importance. And then when I learned to save money, I actually realized we could actually buy a home and not pay rent. And that's how that's how all of this got started, is me figuring out, because we saved money. And then I learned that line, use someone else's money, use other people's money. You know that, I don't know where I picked that. I think it was from, what's his name, Lizzie? Do you remember him? Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
That what's his name? Ugh.
And but you know what, that Rich Dad Poor Dad books, those books,
Yep.
okay? So I did read those books, and I remember, if I remember anything from those books, it was use someone else's money. And I knew I didn't have my own, so I had to use someone else's money. So that was a clever line, and I think that's why I learned it so well. And so I understood the concept of going to the bank. And then the
Yes.
first time we applied for a loan and we got turned down, I understood the concept of credit rating. How do you look? How does your credit look? I got it. It clicked.
And that's what I mean. I mean, the
Understood.
three of us are sitting around here now as middle-aged people talking about this stuff. What if we could actually have a generation of young people that when they're ready and when they finish school, like say either 18 or 22, if they went to college, they would actually be ready to make those kind of very mature, life-impacting decisions.
Well, the
Yeah.
other thing is there are people now who are renting, and if they're renting at 15 or 18 or even 2,000 a month, that could actually be a mortgage payment. And if you've been stable doing that for a number of years, you're accustomed to that particular budget. And then you should take it another step further to find out, okay, since I'm paying this already, save up for your deposit and then find out what properties are out there that you can afford, because you've already been paying this amount. You might as well be paying it back to yourself in terms of owning your own home. But you know, when Gina was talking about training the high schools, I started to laugh to myself, because remember the program where they give a high school kid this baby, and this baby will cry and you have to feed it, and if you don't, it reports it back and you either flunk the case. Do you remember that program?
Yeah.
That was home ec, right?
Yeah, this doll that cries and
Yep.
needs to be fed, and you can't just leave it because it'll monitor your actions regarding that child. And it's actually teaching women, young women, about having a baby, and then you may have a partner spouse to help you with that baby, and you flunk the course. Remember that one? That was
Yeah.
so when Gina was talking about training and all of this, that kept popping into my mind.
I mean, maybe we could come up with a simulation of, what happens if you make bad financial decisions and your credit score, takes a little bit of a hit, how many years that sets you back as far as being on the right track to be able to afford a home when you're not in middle age.
Oh,
Well, we
Yeah,
should do a workshop for that as well. But
Okay, and
anyway,
I do know, because I've done interviews with them. My friends at Coast 360 do fantastic workshops with
Yes,
like
they do.
with personal finance and financial literacy for young people. So maybe we could partner up with those guys.
they do, and we've spoken at their sessions. So
Oh, there you
we
go.
should.
Excellent.
but Jason, you're right. It should be taught in school. I wonder these days what's being taught, but home ec and all those things, that I found them to be very useful. And you're right. I don't understand why we can't teach budgeting, balancing your checkbook, things like that. It should be a class, for goodness sakes. I would have appreciated it.
You know what? And investing. I mean, getting kids into hopefully like bonds, then individual securities, and hopefully then up to the point where they can actually start to think rationally about real estate.
That's
Yeah.
As
right.
high schoolers, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we can wish, and we can only hope. And you know what? The holiday season is right around the corner, so hopefully Santa Claus brings us a addition to the curriculum.
That's right.
We can start at home.
House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.